Welcome to Enhance Advocate. Enhance Advocate is a platform for lawyers having less than 5 years of practice. Today we have with us Advocate Hrishikesh Pawaskar. He graduated his LLB from Hindi Vidya Pracharak Samiti Law College, Ghatkopar in the year 2020. He graduated his LLM from KC Law College in the year 2022, specializing in criminology. His areas of practice are property and criminal matters. Today, Advocate Hrishikesh is going to speak on dealing with law enforcement agencies. So without wasting further time, I would request Advocate Hrishikesh to commence with his lecture. Thank you.
This is Advocate Hrishikesh Pawaskar. As the brief introduction by my brother Advocate Nikhil mentioned, I am going to talk about dealing with law enforcement agencies. What exactly does it come to your mind when we talk about law enforcement agencies? In the simplest terms, I would put it this way, that it is nothing beyond a police officer for a normal citizen. And why does a police officer be of so much importance? Because for a normal citizen, a police officer is the first point of contact where a citizen gets in touch with the government mechanism, where the citizen gets in touch with the government machinery. Now, a police officer is someone who we should consider as our friend, appointed by the government only for our betterment. He is the only officer after the army who works 24/7 only for the betterment of the country's citizens. Now, a police officer ranges all the way from a sepoy, in Marathi it is called a Shipai, all the way up to the CP of the police force. Everyone ranging in between is a police officer, and every police officer is binding to help you irrespective of he being on the duty or not being on the duty. A police officer basically has two areas where he works. Now I am going to categorize them into two categories. The first category being a police officer shows you the elderly brother vibes, and in the other category, a police officer shows you the class monitor vibes. What do I mean by this? The elderly brother vibes is where he comes in to safeguard you with your safety, with other issues. Say for example, a citizen is experiencing certain trouble from other citizens, or rather miscreants of the society, where he gets into regular arguments. And I'm not going to talk about sections, I'm not going to talk about huge technical things. I am going to talk about things which will matter to you as a citizen. I'm talking to you as a citizen, and hence I'm not going to go into those grave technicalities. Basic problems wherein people are getting affected because garbage is being thrown, because people are getting into nonsensical fights with each other because of loud music, or whatever the case may be. The first and foremost thing you do is you dial 100, you call a police officer and address that issue to him. You tell him about it, you report it to him. The police, as far as I know, is the most fast working mechanism in Mumbai. The Mumbai police has earned its reputation for that, where the Mumbai police, I'll be very specific, has not only earned a reputation within the country but globally, and hence the law enforcement agencies, also known as police over here, is of grave importance to us. Now, we were talking about the elderly brother vibes. Why I mentioned this was, whenever a person is in school and for some reason, if his fellow classmates, they come to know that this person has an elder brother, there is a very unlikely chance that this person would be bullied. Similarly, over here, if you approach the police in case of being in a problem where someone is trying to attack you, where someone is trying to cause you physical damage, where someone is trying to cause damage to your property, where someone is trying to eve tease you, a very, very grave issue, eve teasing. In these cases, the police is on its toes. They have taken various measures like appointing the Nirbhaya squad. Coming to the next part, where the second category wherein the police acts as a class monitor. We as citizens are completely engrossed in our own worlds when we are celebrating festivals. We have absolute zero regard as in what is happening outside as long as our festivals are being celebrated. Be it Ganeshotsav, be it Navratri, the late night DJs and everything. But as long as the citizens are dancing to the tunes of DJs and Dol Tasha Pataks, the police is the only mechanism who has to stand on its feet no matter what hour of the night it is to make sure that there is no law and order situation. But this also comes with a stern side, hence the class monitor aspect. Whenever there are processions, whenever there are rallies, whenever there is political rallies going on, it is the police who makes sure that there is no law and order situation. It is the police who makes sure that the rallies, the processions, the celebrations are rather carried out in a very controlled manner, wherein there is no chance of rioting, wherein there is no chance of any sort of chaos to have taken place. Now these permissions are not only with regard to time, but these permissions are also with regard to the noise pollution regulations. With due permissions, of course, you can celebrate whatever you want. With due permissions, of course, from the police department, you are free to celebrate whatever festivals you want or whatever rallies you want to carry out, whatever protests you want to go for. Now, as the topic concerns, how does one come in contact with a police officer, and hence the consequential dealing with them part. A police officer is basically someone who is there to help you, like I said, and a person comes into contact with a police officer in either of these two ways: a voluntary approach and an involuntary approach. A voluntary approach. There are only two ways where you can come in contact with a police officer for the voluntary approach. That is for filing a complaint, filing an FIR, or for filing a non-cognizable offense. Now, the difference is as evident as the statement. An FIR is something which is a cognizable offense. An offense, I'm not going to go into technicalities. I'm only going to say this one word. An offense for which the offender needs to be straightened out is a cognizable offense. An offense where a person, where the offender can be let go with a warning can be considered as a non-cognizable offense. There are other grievances also. Sometimes you go to the police station and you end up not getting your complaint registered itself. For that, you should have a word with your lawyer, ask him to file a private complaint. But that is a topic for another day. Today, we are only going to limit ourselves to dealing with law enforcement agencies. There are other ways where you come in contact with the police officer involuntarily, like I said. In the simplest way, you can get in touch with a police officer without your willingness. If you are someone like me who likes to roam around at night, have a good time on the weekends and chill, you will definitely find yourself waiting in line at least one Nakabandi if you live in Mumbai. Now, what is the easiest way of dealing with such situations? The easiest way is not being intoxicated and having your papers correctly, isn't it? I personally believe, in my own opinion, a person who does not have his vehicular papers updated is nothing short of a moron. You are not doing any good to yourself if you do not have your papers updated. I'll tell you why. For example, you are involved in an accident. People like to say the word you met with an accident, however it is grammatically incorrect. How do you meet with that accident? You are involved in an accident. You are involved in an accident, and for the time being your car is not insured and the damages are apparently too much. You go to your insurance company and you let them know, bhai sahab, so and so has happened, please help me out with the damages, please help me out getting my car fixed. The first and foremost thing, sir, your insurance is expired. You are not going to get any relief over there. Whenever you go to the police station to get your accident report done, basically an accident report is a TAD, traffic accident diary. There is this one thing which is maintained by police stations, wherein any accidents which are happening within the jurisdiction of that one said police station, if at all the people involved in that accident will willingly approach the police station to get these accidents registered so as to claim insurance in the future, this diary is maintained. No one would have thought a minute thing like this would make so much of a difference. What happens usually is, coming back to the part of the Nakabandi, people will run around in their vehicles with expired PUCs, expired insurances and whatnot. It is only advisable that you carry the hard copies with you, because I am pretty sure about the whole M-Parivahan thing going on, where you can show soft copies and everything. But I am not going to limit this to the metropolitan region of Mumbai. I believe YouTube is something where people watch globally. So if this thing is an issue where you are a person who's roaming around at night and the police wala mama is calling you to wait and show papers, and if you are in not the capacity to show him papers, I believe that is going to be a problem for you. So, carrying of papers is absolutely necessary. Recently, there has been a huge influx of videos wherein certain other members of the same fraternity are urging to see if the police officer is competent enough to demand papers from you or no. There is a certain level of officers below whom the officers cannot demand for your RCs, they cannot demand for your PUCs, they cannot demand for your insurance. Is it in fact advisable to do this kind of a stupidity of getting into a fight with someone who is in fact in power at that time? It is not. I am not saying you should run away, but it is better that you comply with them to avoid further problems. Now, another aspect where we also come around is that during these nakabandis, there is a grave chance that a police officer would want to do something beyond his duty and he would ask for searching your vehicle. Like I said, it is better to comply, but not without brains. You keep an eye on that person, because I believe if you are someone who has watched the movie Wanted, Radhe Bhaiya was getting scammed by the police officer in a certain situation similar to this. You are smart enough to understand what I am referring to. Now, how to safeguard yourself in these cases? With the blessings of technology, today we stand ourselves around so much security that we cannot even believe that it exists. It was a difficulty, it was a pain for lawyers even 5 years ago to explain how his client was innocent in a car accident. Today we stand on technologies like dash cams. Dash cameras will not only ensure that you have not jumped a certain signal, but it will also ensure that you walk out of jail without any hassle. It will also ensure if a certain police officer is trying to stop you at a unauthorized nakabandi, it will also stop you from being involved in other problematic affairs. It will stop you from being a victim of other citizens, of other miscreants who are not willing to let you live peacefully. There have been many dash cam footages wherein looters, where robbers, they will hide in the highways, in the bushes. They will throw certain things on the road. A very funny incident happened a couple of days ago when I was traveling from Mumbai to my native place in Ratnagiri. At a certain patch of the highway which was not properly lit, a motorcycle was lying, and very dramatically a man was lying beside him. Fortunately for me to discover that there were no skid marks before the motorcycle where it was lying, I understood that it was a trap. Had that been a situation where I was not aware, it would have been very difficult for me to get out of that situation because I was unfortunately traveling alone at that time. So not only just being aware helps you, but also having technology to support you at that time works as a God-sent blessing. At the topic right now, when we are at dash cams, people often asked us, is it okay for us to video shoot police officers? You tell. If a person is doing his duty to his fullest, would there be something wrong in making a video record of it? It shouldn't be. There is no law that says that you cannot record a police officer whilst he is doing his duty. Usually, the opportunity or the occasion wherein a person pulls out his camera and starts his video recording is only when the officer is doing something mischievous, isn't it? There is proper guidelines, and there has also been certain interviews wherein Pune police has made it very clear that any citizen, pan-India, has an absolute right to shoot a police officer whilst he is performing his duty. Shooting a police officer whilst he is performing his duty is one aspect. But shooting a police officer on certain times when a certain officer believes that a certain act may be of violence which could be inflicted upon a citizen is done, and you are shooting that police officer, is also very necessary. As much as the police force is filled with excellent, brave, duty-bound and honest officers, we cannot ignore the fact that every object, when it stands before the light, there is a certain part which casts a shadow and puts it in the dark. There might be certain unpleasant experiences wherein you might have experienced a police officer giving you a treatment which definitely, certainly you are not deserving of. There might be instances where you might be subjected to police brutality. A video evidence of it definitely comes in handy in these cases, whenever you are filing a complaint against that police officer on a personal level. Now, the above mentioned two were the voluntary approaches where you were willingly or unwillingly being present before a police officer. Now there is another aspect wherein a police officer will give you a call and he will ask you to be present at his police station at a certain time on a certain day. Completely shocked by this call, you will be thinking, why am I being called to the police station? The police might give you a fair idea of what has happened. Let's get into this concept with the help of an example. You work at a goldsmith's shop. On the front, there is a showroom wherein all the beautiful ornaments are being decorated, they are being showed, they are put on display. At the back is the place where work happens, where ornaments are made. I am not talking about these established brands, I am talking about the local goldsmiths. I come from a place called Girgaon, a place which was very notorious to have its reputation as a place where everything could be found, just like Dadar, Lalbagh, Parel and all. Over there, we had these tiny shops where goldsmiths used to sit. A place where I live, nearby there is a police station called LT Mark Police Station, under whose jurisdiction comes the whole Zaveri Bazaar. LT Mark Police Station might not have the usual cases of petty thefts, but it definitely will have cases of gold problems. Gold being melted away, gold being stolen away, so on and so forth. Unfortunately, coming back to the story, you happen to be working as a laborer at this goldsmith. Now on the 10th of this month, one Ramu Kaka, who also happens to be a colleague of yours, who used to work with you in making the gold ornaments, suddenly disappears. He goes AWOL. AWOL is a concept called absent without official leave. I believe there is no mailing system between goldsmiths, but definitely the master has to know where his laborers are. The boss has no idea where Ramu Kaka is from the 10th of this month. Unfortunately, on the 10th itself, you happened to take a leave and you called in sick and you said, I cannot come, boss. Allow me today's day for rest. You presumed your work on the 11th, but on the day where Ramu Kaka disappeared, you were also absent. Behind your back, your boss went to the local police station, he lodged a complaint against Ramu Kaka for disappearing, and along with him, there is a certain amount of gold which is also disappearing. What happens is, police, upon inquiry, ask about all the other laborers and they will take down an FIR. Whilst we are at this, I'll also give a brief idea of what an FIR is. An FIR is the first information report, which means when you first approach the police mentioning about an offense which has been aggrieved, by which you are aggrieved, the police will take down your name as the person who is the victim. The police will take down the name of the offender, the accused in this case, the date, the time, the place, and after that there will be a brief description of what the offense was. This is what an FIR basically constitutes. If you have not had the opportunity to see an FIR in person, this is exactly what an FIR is. There is nothing beyond that. So what happens is, we are at the stage of FIR where you were not involved in the crime, but you happen to be absent from the scene of crime when Ramu Kaka also disappeared. Obviously, the FIR has been registered against Ramu Kaka, but upon further investigation, your boss also mentioned that so-and-so employee was also not present. At the time of charge sheet, while the charge sheet is being prepared, the police will give you a call and they will ask you to be present in the police station. This call comes under the section 41 of the CRPC, where the police wants you to be present for being a suspect, if not the main accused, in this probable crime. What to do when you are approached by the police in a certain thing like this? The first and foremost that you should be doing is approaching your Vakil Sahab. Ask him, Bhai Sahab, what should be done? I am being called by the police and I have absolutely no idea how to talk to them. Tell him about the details of the matter. Where were you? What were you doing at that time? Why you couldn't be present before your boss on the said day wherein the incident has happened? After this, obviously, your Vakil Sahab, after receiving the 41 notice, he is going to urge you to file an anticipatory bail application. This is a way of evading your arrest whilst the investigation is going on. The Vakil Sahab is going to make sure that he puts up a convincing case before the court wherein your presence in the police custody is not required. After this thing happens, it is advisable that you visit the police station after your Vakil Sahab has ensured you, after he's given you instructions what should be said, what should not be said. You visit the police station, you provide them with all the details that you have. Once you are done visiting the police station, the moment you come out, on the very phone number from where you received the call, it is advisable that you drop in a text message. Sir, I have remained present on the day, the date and the time that you had mentioned. I have complied with every single demand that you have made and I am willing to offer this cooperation henceforth as long as it is necessary for the crime to be solved. This will ensure one simple thing, that you are a person who is cooperating with the police machinery and hence you should not be held into police custody. A very tiny detail, but it helps us in the long run. If at all the unfortunate situation comes where you have to be arrested, what then? The first and foremost thing is, whilst getting arrested, there are certain rights of the person who is getting arrested which come into play on immediate basis. The first and the most important right is being informed, as in why I am getting arrested. The police has to disclose the offense, what has happened, the charges under which I am being charged, and exactly the gravity of the offense. Now, after you are being arrested, obviously, not everyone would be knowing. You might be arrested in private, and if you are unfortunate enough, a whole procession might be taken out in broad daylight. But you have a right to inform your well-wishers, your friends and family, after you are getting arrested. Beyond that comes the right to inform and consult the Vakil Sahab, the lawyer of your own choice. The police has no say in this. You have an absolute right of calling your lawyer and informing that such and such has happened. I have been arrested and I need your help, sir, to get out of this tricky situation. Another tiny aspect which usually slips the mind is that entries are usually not made in the police station, in the station diary. The entry of your arrest also needs to be made. I'll give you an example. In a case where I was working upon, a man was arrested on Saturday. He was kept in police custody for the Saturday night, for the whole of Sunday, and his arrest was shown on Monday morning at 11. Unfortunately, in litigation, what your story is does not matter. What matters is the paperwork. If your paperwork shows you have been arrested on 11 on a Monday, irrespective of you being taken into custody on a Saturday, it doesn't matter. Another important right of a person being arrested is the medical examination whilst getting arrested. A person whilst getting arrested is not an easy task most of the times. He might try to evade, he might try to run away, whatever the case may be. And in these situations, the police might resort to certain amount of brutality, which usually involves slapping a person across the face. Now that police officer, whilst he's slapping, he's not going to be a judge of how much force that needs to be applied. And most of the times, it is exorbitant force to neutralize the person who's getting arrested. What happens usually in this use of exorbitant force is the person who's getting slapped might get damages to his hearing, might get damages to his eyesight. This needs to be put in the medical report. The police, on certain unfortunate situations, would take you to a certain doctor in the Sarkari hospital and say, "Idhar se hi report banwana hai, inse hi." No matter what you cry at that time that you have been subjected to brutality, the doctor may choose not to help you. In this case comes the next step, being produced before the magistrate within a span of 24 hours. What exactly happens is, like I said, the arrest was being made on Saturdays. Saturday full went away, Sunday full went away. Your basic right has been exploited. Now, that may be a situation, but when we talk about rights, it is absolutely necessary that a person who is being arrested is produced before the magistrate within a span of 24 hours. When a man who is being arrested is being produced before the magistrate, irrespective of what his medical report says, if the person who is arrested chooses to shout in front of the magistrate and mention that I have been subjected to police brutality, I have been beaten up, I have been taken undue advantage of, they have been asking for bribes, God knows what not. If this is exactly what a person who has been subjected to police brutality does, if he talks about the things that he has been subjected to, there is a very good chance that the magistrate will take action against this particular police officer, as well as make sure that you are put in judicial custody. Judicial custody is something where usually people say you are safeguarded. Police custody, I'd rather not talk about it. When you are unfortunately in the police custody for some reason, wherein the magistrate is not convinced that the investigation is complete, is not convinced that the information that has been pulled out is enough, or rather not convinced by your lawyer that you should be put into judicial custody, the magistrate will order you to be put under police custody. What happens in the police custody is that you will be interrogated for a good amount of time. You will be questioned in and out at the whims and fancies of the police officers. You must be under the wrong conception, you must be under the misconception, I'd say, that only the investigating officer is the one who is going to question you. Technically, it should be that way. However, it is not. If a certain officer believes that he has what it takes to make you confess doing a certain type of crime, he will definitely move in. And there is nothing wrong in it, to be honest. When you look at it from a logical point, they are doing their job of solving a crime. You should do your job of proving how you are innocent. Now, another aspect of being into custody and filing complaints is a very weird concept, wherein it has been said that the very shield made to protect a woman is used as a weapon to torture her in-laws and her husband. I am talking about the Domestic Violence Act. The very shield made to protect a woman. The very shield, when we say this, the word very shield, is when women in the olden times had been subjected to certain tortures because the bride's maternal family could not comply with a certain amount of demands, or she couldn't act according to the riti riwaj and the ways, the culture of the groom's family. These were unfortunate events where the bride, where the wife was subjected to certain amount of torture. As distasteful as it is, today this very section is misused by a lot of women to put in jail ailing grandparents of the groom, ailing grandparents of the husband, parents of the husband, long distant relatives of the husband. In a case where I am presently working on, a man from Delhi has been subjected to this very blessing of 498. The complainant wife has chosen selectively not to mention that the sister of my client happens to live in a far off country. However, she has chosen to mention her name over here in the FIR. The FIR speaks around how the wife was kept away from her stridhan, how she was being taunted, so on and so forth. The story is usually the same, but the unfortunate victims in these cases are too many a times elderly people and people who have absolutely nothing to do with the matter at all. There is another way around this also, wherein recently it came out that a female has been indulging into a business of marriage. I am using my words very carefully. A business of marriage where she has divorced 6 people before this and now had filed again for a divorce with the 7th husband that she was involved with at that time. So the misuse of law is very unfortunate in this case. I'm sorry I'm using the word unfortunate too many a times today, but that is how it is. What exactly happens when you are being arrested? You are taken into custody for creating either a law and order situation or for inflicting violence or for doing something which is socially not acceptable. There are also situations where a person, whilst getting arrested, might be caught with certain objects. Now that we had talked about the whole domestic violence aspect and how this feature of law has been misused, there are a certain amount of rights that women enjoy which the men don't. And I am not talking about just women, senior citizens and minors as well. A woman cannot be arrested beyond 7 p.m. in the evening and before 7 a.m. in the morning. This is what I call the sundown period. Whilst getting arrested, the woman has to be arrested by a female police officer only. She cannot be touched, she cannot be dragged, she cannot be pulled to the police station, especially by male officers. Now, if at all there is a grave urgency of this woman to be arrested, a warrant might be issued in such exceptional cases, and she will be arrested in that case. The other rights which a woman and a senior citizen and the minors enjoy is that they should not be called to the police station for enquiry, for knowing, for getting down details of any sort. And mind you, this is something which the police machinery takes very, very seriously. They will make sure that their officers visit the place of residence of someone who needs to be inquired about, someone who needs to be interrogated, someone who needs to be questioned for that matter, in the simplest way. And when it comes to minors, the police will only question the minors in front of their guardians or their parents or someone who is an adult who could take responsibility for that minor at that very time. When we talked about this whole questioning aspect and the whole aspect where women are concerned, there is a delicate situation which had transpired in the past, wherein the Vishakha guidelines came into picture. What exactly are the Vishakha guidelines? It is the unfortunate case of Vishakha versus the state of Rajasthan, wherein a female was subjected to certain untoward activities by certain bad elements of the society. The police has been given clear instructions. If at all there happens to be a female who approaches the police to complain about certain sexual offences wherein she is a victim, or if at all she is reporting a certain sexual offence wherein someone other else is a victim, it is the duty of the police officers to take down the FIR. Consequently, to make arrests at the quickest, be produced before the magistrate, before the judges at the quickest, and avail a speedy trial. Our country might have earned its reputation wherein Delhi is called the rape capital, but we should not also ignore that these are the incidents which are reported by our own media. Before we call our country names, we should also not forget that selectively and conveniently such reports from other countries are also not reported. In a way to tarnish the image of our Bharat, this might be an attempt. But what I am happy about is the state, the central, the government has taken steps to ensure the safety of such victims and the process to bring them to justice at the soonest. With this, I close my topic. Jai Hind.
Rishikesh, thank you very much. It was a nice hearing on a topic wherein you have given some positive shades about the enforcement agencies.
Yes.
Because we receive most of the videos which portray a very negative picture of the enforcement agency, and coupled with that we have given nice examples as to how the cooperation is given.
Yes.
So thank you very much. A small token from Hammurabi to you. This is for you.
Dhanyavad.